Right.
Welcome everyone to this short webinar. I'm Kelly Grimes, Executive Director of the Canadian Health Leadership Network. Our intent in this brief overview is to introduce you to some of the key concepts and give some hints on how to easily navigate this Leadership Development Impact Assessment Toolkit. I want to first introduce the key players in this project. The first one is Graham Dixon, who is CHLNet's Senior Research Advisor and Chair of the Research and Evaluation Working Group that oversaw this endeavor in partnership with the ROI Steering Group. Many of you may know Graham. He is the father of Leeds and does a lot of academic research in health leadership. The next one is Suzanne Schnell, who's the CEO of the ROI Institute Canada. As we began this piece of work, we realized very rapidly that we needed an expert to help us on measuring impact and return on investment. So we went to Suzanne, who graciously agreed to help us. And then we have Mary, who is our postdoctoral fellow in partnership with the University of Ottawa and MyTex. And we're very happy to have Mary help us with the pilot testing and working with us on doing the finalizing of the toolkit itself. So that's it for me, and I'm now going to hand it over to Graham.
Yes, thank you very much, Kelly, to my opportunity to introduce the process that we went through to create the toolkit, and I'm going to be quick about this. Obviously, we had a pre-phase that you can see on the slide here, where we had to seek funding from our member partners at CHLNet, and we approached them based on the simple idea that they were saying to us, which is, gee, do we have evidence that leadership development actually makes a difference? Is there a business case that we can show the senior executive in our organization that there's a return on investment for leadership development? And at the time, we did not think that we could access a process that would give us that information. The member partners then decided that they would champion this particular project. And when we canvassed them for supportive funding, 15 partners stepped forward to give us the funding needed to actually create the project itself. The project itself has gone through 3 phases over the past 2.5 years. The first phase was to gather whatever evidence, data, information we could gather in the form of a scoping review to shape essentially the key challenges, issues, and concerns about creating a toolkit for return on investment in leadership development. And that scoping review was conducted by the Center for Health Information at the University of Manitoba, and it was done as an in-kind contribution to the project, for which we have great appreciation. Phase 2 was to take the data, the information that was derived from the scoping review, and to begin to design a concept for the toolkit, and to also set up some pilot test sites that once we had the design in a context that we were comfortable with, to actually engender a partnership with some organizations to pilot it. That was our phase 2. And in phase 3, we actually conducted the pilots and used the results from the pilot to refine and finalize the toolkit and get it ready for direct implementation. And that is where we are at today. We are on the cusp of making it available to our partners for implementation. In terms of making the project work, as Kelly's already said, and I won't belabor here, but there were a number of partners. The University of Ottawa, through Mary, as our MyTex fellow, who has really stewarded the pilot phase and the refinement of the toolkit. Suzanne Schell from the Return on Investment Institute of Canada, who has provided expertise all along the way to create the content of the toolkit. We have our steering group, which is a subgroup of the Canadian Health Leadership Network itself, and of course, we have the 15 CHLNet member partners who provided the funding and who get regular updates on this project. The toolkit, we ultimately agreed that there would be a a architecture such that the toolkit could be accessed online in a logical way. That creates the need for online navigation. And to do that, we had to have essentially a structure for that navigation. And we've structured the toolkit into 5 essential buckets, if you like, of information. First, of course, understanding the content of the toolkit, laying the foundation for it. The second stage of the process is to get information and guidance on how to assess outcomes of leadership development programs. The third bucket of information is how to evaluate, based on those outcomes, the merit and worth of the program's impact. So turning those outcomes into an evaluative process, and where those evaluative processes can be quantified, the next bucket tells us how to turn those quantifiable elements into an actual process for determining the research on investment that particular leadership development program has created. And of course, the fifth bucket is a bucket of resources that contains all of the background materials and all of the references that have laid or created the foundation for the toolkit. So with that, I will turn it over to Mary, who's going to talk about the pilot study.
Thank you so much, Graham. Thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. Given that the toolkit itself needs to be valid, reliable, simple, and cost-effective, the LDI toolkit was then pilot tested. Psychometric properties of the toolkit was measured via several ways, including space validity, construct validity, content validity, and reliability. The study was carried out across Canada in 3 jurisdictions, including British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and Nova Scotia. The analysis identified that the LDI toolkit is simple, valid, reliable, and cost-effective. This study also identified several potential areas to guide improvement within the toolkit. Thereafter, with the involvement of the CHLNet multidisciplinary team, an iterative process was employed to refine and finalize the toolkit for the access and the use of CHLNet partners and stakeholders. Thank you.
On a few slides to detail the actual content of the toolkit and how it flows and where you can find information in that bucket that was referred to of resources. So it does have, it is structured, I apologize for, to follow a logical process, repeating that again, laying the foundation, assessing outcomes, evaluating impact, and determining return on investment. Those 4 processes or components within the toolkit are then broken down into 7 steps. The 7 steps are a logical flow to get you from essentially building your evaluation into your leadership development program right through to your evaluation and determining ROI. So essentially it's setting up your objectives, collecting the data, impact data, as well as application, learning, and reaction data, isolating the effects of the program. Quick definition is if there has been some improvement in impact measures, what improvement can we attribute to this program, as there are many and several influences. Then converting that impact data, if we can, credibly, with minimal resources, to a monetary value. We then have a monetary impact isolated to our program that we can then compare to the cost and show a financial calculation of ROI. So as we move through the online toolkit that you can access soon, There's many downloadable files included to give you the tools to follow those 7 steps through to evaluate your leadership development programs. As an example, there's a downloadable tool that details the levels of data. I quickly went through those on that last slide, but the levels of data are 1 through 4, and 5 being the ultimate measure ROI. There's a nice conversation about evaluating programs at the different levels. When do you take your program to an ROI calculation? Or when do you just evaluate your program at the application level, for example, just to know changes in behavior have occurred and are occurring on the job? And some criteria to help you to make those decisions. What are the criteria to help you decide what level we should evaluate this program to? One of the most important parts of getting your evaluation to be a success and in hand have your program itself be successful is setting objectives, aligning your program to the objectives of the organization so that you have something to evaluate. What does success look like at these levels? What are we expecting to see coming out of this program? So there's a downloadable tool there that will help you work that through with you and your team and your designers and your facilitators, the funders, the executives, many people that you can get involved in to determine what the objectives are, the better. So this section is another example of what's in the toolkit in that resources bucket. Many downloadable tools, as we said. Most of the tools you see on this slide as an example are data collection tools. What instruments do we use to collect the data to do our evaluation, whether it's an action plan, questionnaire, self-assessment possibly. And also there you'll see that there's a data collection plan tool, there's data collection tool guidelines, and some samples for you to look at and refer to. This slide continues on as an example of more downloadable tools can be used to collect data. There's content within the toolkit that allows you to sort out what tools will work best for your program. You certainly wouldn't use all of these tools to collect data, but you might use 2 or 3 for different levels of data. I mentioned that isolation piece in the 7 steps. Once you have that data collected, we want to do some work to isolate those impacts to our program. We can't claim the whole pie normally, so we have to work hard to do that. And there's tools within the toolkit to help you pick a method that's going to be credible and use it to isolate the benefits of your program. And then again, there's some examples of data, examples of impact measures, and that are quantitative and some that are qualitative, and we refer to those as intangible benefits. And there's always many and very significantly adding value to the program itself. And then we have another handy, helpful tool that will help you convert data, impact data, to monetary values. There's some examples there. I think there's probably 7 to 10 different methods that you can use to credibly convert your data items to money, as we like to say, monetary value. And then that's step 7, at the very end, this being the ultimate measure that some programs need to go to calculate ROI. We have details in there on how to calculate it, what the formula is, and it's just finance and accounting, ROI, net benefits over cost times 100%. And there's also a section there that will help you get to the cost. What did this program cost the organization? Some examples are on the screen. Participant salary, or lost production time possibly, instructor costs, instructor self-support. There's many, many, many costs that we want you to be aware of that you need to attract to get into your calculation so that your calculation is credible.
Kelly, it's Graham here. I wonder if I could just add one thing that I should have said at the beginning, and that is that this toolkit was constructed to be self-directed. In other words, we wanted to make it available to member partner organizations and others such that they could conduct much of this work in-house. What we have found is invaluable, and on many occasions, to have a resource such as Suzanne available for our partners when they run into difficulties as they try to operationalize the toolkit. Mary used the term simple, elegant, and reliable at the beginning to talk about information we wanted to get from the pilots, and that was so that we could give people a toolkit that was elegant to use. But oftentimes there is a need for an expert like Suzanne to help out. So I just wanted to clarify that point.
Yeah, great point, and that actually naturally brings us to the last slide. And if you do need educational support, Suzanne's email is there, so feel free to contact Suzanne. She's an invaluable resource. The toolkit it will be free to all CHLNet partners as a partner benefit. So we will be selling it through Leads Canada for any non-CHLNet partners for access. So please contact me if you'd like information. We also want to create a registry, so begin collecting data, how organizations are using the toolkit and what sort of measures they're beginning to see, both short-term and long-term. So if you would like to be part of this registry, please email me at CHLNet at the email address you'll see on the slide. And we will begin to collect a registry, and you will see that as part of the online version of the toolkit. So that's it for us, and we thank you, and please provide us any feedback you have on how we might improve this over time, and let us know how it goes using it. Thank you.